All right, everyone, welcome. Coming back with another amazing session. For those of you who are just joining, my name is Gina Guerrieri. I am Partner Success Manager here at RevGenius, and I am joined today by this incredible panel, guys. I am here to present Sangram and his guests, Kate, Karen, and Mary. I'll be talking about GTM 2025, guys. It's right around the corner and how to plan for it. So over to you, Sangram.
Thanks, Gina, and give it up for Gina, the Rev Genius group. Like they've done a phenomenal job. Over like 5,000-6,000 people coming and pulling this team, and it's a big deal. And now on the third day, so kudos to all of you who actually are still tuning in for the third day. So today we're going to talk about 2025 planning, and every company that I'm talking to right now, I realize that they're literally in the middle of it, which is why we have such an incredible response. I'm super grateful to MK, Kate, and Karen because they're going to be on the hot seat in a little bit. They're going to be sharing their go-to-market strategy, how they're doing the planning, some of the things that they can unveil on their end of how they're looking at it. And we're going to share a framework around that with you and practically how you can do that. So this is going to be very practical sessions. So get your pens and paper ready or however you take notes, because the idea here is to help you do your go-to-market 2025 planning. That's the goal for it. So let's go around the horn. We'll start with MK and then Kate and Karen, just in the order I see all of you. As you introduce yourself, just maybe share what are some of the biggest planning mistakes companies make that you want to make sure that people don't do it, because everybody's in that stage right now. So MK, over to you.
Okay, that's a big one. I'm MK, Mary Kay Evans. I'm Chief Go-to-Market Officer at Alita, and I'll tell you how I got that title here in a second. But just first, Alita is a platform used by many of the largest brands you know and love, Netflix, Lululemon, Spotify, just to name a few. The platform allows our customers to conduct user research. So yes, surveys, but also usability testing, customer panels, in-depth interviews, stuff like that. So it's all about gathering feedback to, make better product decisions. How did I end up with Chief Go-to-Market Officer title? Look, I think the mistake that many companies make is siloing teams. And so, my career journey has included 3 CMO roles and also building my own marketing agency, where we focused on helping tech companies raise funding, launch and scale products, things like that. What I saw from being on the agency side, and Sangram, I know you can relate to this, is such problems with siloed teams. So when I joined Alita, I'm like, okay, first thing we got to do is break down these walls. Sales, marketing, customer success, and product all have to be in the same room when you're doing, when you're working on a go-to-market plan. And that's the number one problem that I see across businesses, is just making go-to-market decisions without all the stakeholders in a room. And then I'll just share my second one is overlooking the ICP and jumping straight into demand gen and pipeline velocity. And let's be honest, I've been doing this a while, and I don't think I've ever been at a point in my career where we weren't looking for pipeline magic. Pipeline magic is not a thing. It has to be very, very thoughtful go-to-market decisions that impact all of those teams. So that's me.
I love that, MK. And what I'm really excited about when you go through your own go-to-market strategy using the operating system is I think the focus on ICP is very underrated across almost everybody. Everything that they got it. They know what the ICP is there, that everybody's on the same page. And when you really ask about positive and negative, where you lose customers, where it costs customer, or a customer will be extremely costly if you don't have the right one, people are not asking those questions. So I'm really curious and excited to be working with you, but also to learning how you're thinking about that part of it. So that's awesome. Kate, you have been on the journey with ABM and all of in the very early stages of it. So we go way back looking at it. And now you're on the growth marketing journey, which is, again, I love people having go-to-market officer title, growth title, because it speaks to where the market is right now. People are trying to figure out what are the new ways to grow. So love to have you introduce yourself and share about the mistakes that you see people make when they do go-to-market planning.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of this esteemed panel and to be able to meet a few folks as well. So it's been great. I'm Kate, head of growth marketing at Bazaar Voice. If you've ever shopped online, you've probably interacted with something related to Bazaar Voice, whether it's on social with a like to buy button or on a retailer site or a brand site. We help get all of the content that consumers want to make informed purchase decisions in all the places they need it across that buyer journey. So we're very much a content house and how we get all of that content where brands and retailers need it. I think we have definitely I've been on the ABM journey and then coming into growth and really trying to understand how to better our go-to-market motions. And I definitely agree with MK. I think there's so much, people are planning, but they're planning separately. And so just really thinking about how do we plan together and how do we plan together differently. And I think it is about department silos, but it's also about those go-to-market motion silos. So even sometimes we're thinking together about inbound and we're thinking together about outbound, but we're not necessarily threading through how we're thinking about how all of those motions work together. So that's something that we've been really focused on is how do we not just plan together differently, that it's not just planning inbound, planning outbound, that we're really planning all of those go-to-market motions together.
And you know what, Kate, what's interesting about that is most people listening to this have been part of, people know inbound, people know outbound, but we're all also been asked to like, hey, go create a PLG motion, like, and as if it's going to drop out of the sky and somebody on the board says, yeah, PLG works. And then we have to figure out, what about community? What about events? What about partner-led? And we have all these different go-to-market motions. And then we have the same one or two frameworks that we all have been exposed to. And we're like, well, that actually doesn't work here. There's no MQL in that. So I love the fact that you're not only bringing the team aspect of it that MK talked about, but you're actually bringing the go-to-market motion aspect of it, because I don't think it's talked about much at all.
And they all interact. So it's like, how do they each influence each other and how do you use that to your advantage instead of it becomes a disadvantage if you're not planning together?
Love it. Karen, now Overhaul is not a stranger to the world. I think most people know what Overhaul is. It's a very tiny company, so you can tell about your very tiny company to the world, because it actually does really, really amazing thing and big thing. And you have been at the forefront of it. You're the EVP and CMO over there. You look at a lot of different things in your organizations. What are you seeing and how are you part of the 2025 go-to-market planning? What is the big mistakes that you see companies making?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's really nice to meet everyone, and certainly great to be on this panel. I've learned a lot through the prep for the panel with the team, and this is a really timely conversation because I think we're all in it, for one. Yeah. For those that don't know Overhaul, we're a supply chain risk management and visibility technology. So we safeguard cargo while it's in transit against theft, spoilage, and delays and damage. So if you're reading the news right now or listening to the headlines, you'll see the port strikes, the disruptions in the Middle East, all of that impacts supply chain. So we're constantly on our toes on the go-to-market side. We're very focused around understanding supply chain and logisticians and their problems and really looking to kind of solve them through data. So it's definitely, in the lead up to the holidays, a very chaotic time for us, plus layering on go-to-market planning and looking at 2025 and what's going to be our strategy for next year. So for me, one of the things that's already been talked about, of course, alignment, but alignment goes beyond the resources into the processes and the technology and how we can really align all three of those things. It's definitely been a big focus of ours as a company. We started as a team of 5, and now we're a team of over 600. So the team has both grown globally as well as in terms of like scaling up and changing our processes to meet kind of the needs of a more scalable company and solution. So I think about things as it relates to those 3 pillars of people, process, technology, how we can be more collaborative using our go-to-market tech stack. And separate to that, what stage of maturity are you as a company? And give yourself a little bit of grace, especially in the early days, when you're feeling like you're doing a lot of manual processes. But really, as you are in those manual processes and thinking about how you scale, start to prepare for the future as soon as you can, because as companies grow, and I know from our experience, we were high growth, especially during the COVID days where supply chain had really kind of hit the headlines. It was important for us to kind of start to think about what processes we need tomorrow, what different technologies and resources can lean in to help us scale efficiently at that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the scale speaks for itself, what you've been able to do and the team has been able to do over the last few. And I'm already seeing questions from Vinay, like what are some of the frameworks? Hold on, Vinay, we're getting there. Like, we're like 5 minutes into that. So no doubt we're going to get there. And I see from Gina, what is the org? What was your org started doing to start planning in 2025? I think that's a great question. I think when we go to individual OS, is like, what is the process of the planning? When does it start? Who's involved in that process? I think these are important questions. So I appreciate what people are saying. And Marissa, I see your comment as well. So let me just share a couple of data points, and we're going to jump right into it, because once you look at where the market is, where I'm seeing things, and we're going to just jump into how companies are actually doing go-to-market OS. So I'm going to take maybe 5 minutes to just set the stage, and then literally have all three of you share your go-to-market strategy and how you're planning that in 2025. So basics, very simply, this is the reason why we're doing this, folks. And you kind of heard that, and I made notes. MK talked about team and ICP. Kate talks about already go-to-market, not just silos, but go-to-market motions. Karen, you mentioned about technology, people, and process. All of this boils down to this. We all are seeing pretty plummeting responses in terms of pipeline. As go-to-market partners, we do a lot of research on this one. This is what we see. Teams are smaller, budgets are small, budgets are lower. But what we asked this survey, this was probably over 1,000 people responding to this. And we asked this question, like, what is the one thing that is keeping you, your company, from hitting your business goals? And as you can see, people didn't say my competition. As a matter of fact, it was 0% of people said they're your competition. So if you're pointing to your competitors for pricing, whatever, that's not what most people are thinking about. Or market conditions, and there are market conditions that are clearly driving some of the macroeconomics, but there are still good companies that are doing good stuff. And Karen, you just talked about overall going through and what's happening at the ports right now. Market conditions do have a short-term, at least, impact on it. But over 68% of the folks said the number one thing that's stopping them from achieving their business goals is internal go-to-market clarity. Internal ability to bring all the stakeholders together and say, this is why we're doing, this is our big bet. These are the people that we want to be on with. These are the customers. This is the ICP, to MK's point, that we want to go. That's an overwhelming majority of the people. So the bottom line on this one is simply this. Your competition is you. If you can figure out how do you bring the teams together, you're going to do great. But if you can decide, and if you can get your team together and cannot get on the bets, it doesn't have to be right. We have a big conversation that we do when we do advisory is it's not about certainty. It's about clarity that wins at the end of the day. I'll say that again, because this is very important point. Nobody can be certain if any of the bets are going to work. Absolutely not. We'll be all Elon Musk if you were able to do that, but that we're not. So nobody can be certain about it, but you can be clear as a group, and that you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your team to drive that clarity in your organization. And today we're going to go through some frameworks that literally will be able to do that. And the one framework that I want to do is simply this, the go-to-market operating system. If you have heard from me at all in the last 2 years, you would know that I'm very passionate about this framework, because it literally breaks down the silos of marketing, sales, CS, or any of that, and literally says, what is the business problem you're solving? And each one of these pillars and all of the information that people have, you will see, each one of them have a bunch of frameworks. Most of it you will find our GTM Monday research note that over 100,000 people read it, or on our website. So I'm not going to go deep on personally on any of it, because a lot of it has already been shared. But we're going to go practically, well, how do I do this? So here's what we've been doing for the last 1 year, and it has been game-changing, especially when it comes to 2025 planning. And I'm about to share that with you. These are the 8 questions that every organization, every leadership team members should be able to answer with clarity. If you can answer these 8 questions as individual leaders and get your team to answer these questions, you're going to find that your team is going to have a lot of great, tough love conversation, but ultimately the responses to these questions are really your go-to-market strategy. It's literally a reverse way of building that together. And instead of saying, we need to meet 30 million in revenue and we need to do, that's fine. That's great spreadsheet math work that we can do, but you need to be able to answer some basic question like, where are you going to grow the most? Is it in the financial services or manufacturing? Is SMB or mid-market? Or is it, you have to be very specific about it and have that debate in your conversation. And today we're going to go through 3 practical use cases that all of these 3 CMOs and growth leaders are doing in their organization. I think you're going to see a glimpse of how to think through that. One of the most fascinating way to look at it is, and we just try to do this for HubSpot because most of us are familiar with that. And I'll walk through that in like maybe 60 seconds and then have MK share how Alida is looking at these questions and how they are trying to answer these questions. So here's HubSpot. For most of us already know this. If we were to go back and ask these 8 questions to HubSpot, and we have interviewed Brian Halligan and Yamini and a lot of the go-to-market leaders and CEO at HubSpot, this is what we see, and a lot of their stuff is out in the marketplace. So it's very easy to pull it together. In the early days, in the TRM version, which is the total relevant market, is they started with marketing the SMB, but they expanded to a new market in agencies, then started to go a little bit up market. Then they also have sales and CS new personas within that, and they are now also going to non-tech, non-high tech. And they now obviously have international. So you can see all the different markets. Now, all 6 of them didn't come at the same day. They actually added them. But here's the beauty of this 8 questions and this looking at it this way that connects your strategy to execution. For every one of them, you're looking at your market investment map, which is which products are you going to sell them? So initially, they were selling inbound and marketing automation. But as they added new persona, it was for a particular product. Like CRM, they added the sales persona, or service, they added the CS persona. So hopefully you can start quickly seeing that each one of the answers to these questions actually dictates and really begs the question, do you have the product to support this new persona? Or if you add a persona, if you have the persona, do you have a product that this persona will buy? These questions are not happening in the organization. They're probably happening in people's mind, but not in the organization at the executive level. The brand and demand is very simply, what is their point of view? As everybody knows, inbound has been their big point of view, and they added inbound led and community and outbound, different go-to-market motions like Kate was talking about earlier. The velocity is simple. I will never forget in the early days when I went to the HubSpot office in Boston, they had floors of outbound salespeople. I was like, wait a minute, isn't this inbound company? How is it? Because I was naive to think that, well, people just come and just buy. I mean, that wasn't just that their business. There was reps and the outbound motion and agency and enablement was a big part of it, in addition to the free trial. And as you can see, the customer time to value and expansion, they're all pretty self-evident all the way to revenue operations and leadership management. So the idea is this. Once you as an executive team learn to answer these 8 questions, every time you inject a new persona, a new vertical, a new motion, a new customer, you can look at this again, and I call it having your entire go-to-market strategy on a slide. It's not detailed all the way to everything that needs to happen, but it will help you ask the right questions. And ultimately, if you can ask the right questions, you can get to the right answers, or at least clear answers for your team and the strategy that you want to have. So with that, I'm going to have MK share how is she thinking about that, because I literally put this on her plate and say, all right, we want to look at it for you, and I know you spent some time on it. I'll love MK. What was your process of going through it? And as you think through that, maybe you can highlight a couple of these pillars so people can get an understanding of your thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. By the way, ladies, join the vulnerability here. So we're sharing our go-to-market plans with, hundreds of people here. So can't wait for the critique. We are not going to get it all right. But I love what you said, Sangram, about this is not a spreadsheet exercise. We've all done it. We need to grow 20%, and that means our win rate's like roughly 30%, and this is how many more leads we need, and then this is how many AEs or account executives we need. And I've never seen the math line up at the end of the year, right? Because every quarter we're adjusting it. Like, oh man, leads aren't fast enough. Throw more money over there. Let's drop a few AEs. And it's a constant circle, right? Well, when you zoom out and you look at some of these questions, if you answer them first, then we know exactly where to put our investment. And so how did I go about this? Actually, conversations with my, some of my peers, customer success being maybe, one of the most important. So customer success, sales, I lead product and marketing. Let's get together. Let's talk about this. And where we started is all about ICP. So yeah, I won't go through the whole thing, but ICP and which product, which will drive highest customer value, those two are so tightly linked. And, Alita's in a stage right now where what we're seeing is we have great penetration in large enterprise. So we know the companies that buy, we know lifetime value is hard to calculate for all of us, right? But we know who stays with us a very long time and what products they're using. But how do we accelerate that, right? Like, is the ICP, is this it? Or can we expand? Where should we expand it? And it's a complicated Rubik's Cube, honestly. So that is, I think where we're spending the most of our time is really thinking about ICP, and it's all on the back of what's happening in the market and how we can expand. So that's why I have adjacent tools. Consolidation is a very, very big theme in the market we play in. And that means if there's consolidation, how can we expand our product set to pick up some of the things that are sitting next to us? So it's not really even about a direct competitive play of like, you do the same thing as we do, we're fighting over it. Nope. Where growth is going to come through that consolidation play and picking up bits of the tools that sit in the stack our customers are using. We did a study earlier this year, and our customers told us they use 6 to 7 tools, software tools, day to day. That's a ton, right? And then I saw somewhere on LinkedIn that in the SaaS ecosystem, there's like 100 tools that enterprises use. Well, thankfully, I'm only trying to think about 6 or 7 in a consolidation, right? But that's driving our core, like baseline foundational go-to-market strategy. And it's also driving my product roadmap. So what is the product roadmap and investment going to be? We're all playing with one set of dollars here, right? So if I'm going to put money into that, it's pulling away from how many AEs we may have or even demand gen dollars, right? It's one big pot of money. Where are we allocating it? And for Alita, which not everybody's in the same stage, right? But product innovation is a very, very big part of our go-to-market strategy. And that means focus on the use case, focus on that consolidation. And then, I'll jump down to which product equals the highest customer value. One way to do that beyond consolidation is expanding across personas inside that ICP, right? If we're selling to the marketing team, can we also sell to the product team or vice versa? And analyzing our current accounts and our prospect accounts do we have those right buyers in there? And then I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm going to jump over to ROI. What creates the best ROI, or fastest time to value in your customer's mind? Again, I'm hearing from peers that customers are asking for that. I want to see time to value instantaneous, basically, right? Like that has not always been a thing in SaaS, where there was a lot more lenience on like, there's an implementation stage and that time to value is shrinking every single day. And so as vendors, that is one of the most critical pieces of this go-to-market plan especially for Alita, is we need to show value instantly. So what does that look like? And so, we've talked a lot about how can we do that? What are the go-to-market motions? And I mean, tactically, how can we do that? Obviously, onboarding and streamlining implementation. If you can take it from 30 days to 12 days, what would that do for time to value, right? Is that possible? And lots of conversations I'm making up these numbers, by the way.
Well, some of the research, MK, has been very much that within 30 days, people are looking to make decisions. Our research has been very clear about that part. And as you're looking at from adjacent tools consolidation to high customer value, oh my gosh, I was just making a note around this thing is like almost every organization that does not have a expansion strategy is shrinking.
Right.
By
And
definition.
look, it's happening because of this consolidation play that we see, right? So look, we're all in different businesses selling different solutions, but I'm going to guess that we're selling into many of the same enterprises. And so this is what's on the mind of the buyer, right? My last point would just be, I spend a lot of time thinking about that last part of the circle here, which is how do you give your team clarity? And yes, it comes with alignment. Look, employee engagement is everything. It's literally the beginning of it all, right? When your employees are engaged and they understand and really believe, we're going to get things done faster and the product's going to be better. So how do we drive that clarity? And, there's no magic sauce here. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of listening, a ton of listening to what the employees think and what they see. And honestly, the best ideas come from them, not us, right? Sitting in one room. So I spend a lot of my time thinking about that. And I was really excited when you gave us this framework to see it as a foundational piece, because we can do all of this work and have this amazing strategy, a great tactical plan that, yes, aligns to the dollars we want to generate. But if your team doesn't understand why they're working on something, then, it all falls apart. So I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, MK. I feel like this is I made note on this is going back, double downing on that, the math is not really what this is. This is about the why we should do this, why we should win here, why we should be aligned, why we should take certain bets. And without the clarity on that one, I think people most likely feel lost and feel like I'm running it, I'm doing it, but we're not having incremental success. We don't see. And the reason you may not be having it in spite of those spreadsheet math is because the why and the clarity is not connected yet. So I love that you kind of helped us walk through it. So with that, I'm going to have Kate come up and talk more about Bazaar Voice. How are you connecting your strategy to execution, and maybe some of the pillars of how you looked at some of these?
Yes. Thank you so much. I loved your quote around it's not about certainty, it's about clarity. I think sometimes we get really caught up in like, what's the right thing? And it's like, it's evolving constantly. So the point of this entire exercise is to try and evolve together, which is super hard to do. But I think just having this on a page and having the right conversations is a really great starting point for all of this. So I'm going to take a book from MK's, or take a page from MK's book and just touch on a couple of these as well. I'm super open if there are questions about others, but just a few that have kind of been really instrumental to us going into FY25. One of them is around total relevant market. I think sometimes it's really challenging to say it works for everyone. Everyone wants this. The product is so good. And so casting that widest net isn't oftentimes helpful. And so really thinking about how do you have the discipline to get really tight in who your total relevant market is for your product today, not what you may want to have in the future, is sometimes a really challenging thing. But we've been really focused on that. For us, that's really meant how do we think about company fit, the intent that we're seeing from that company, and a really tight ICP. So one of the actions that's driven for us is getting really clear on account acquisition. So we're getting the accounts in Salesforce. We can see them. We can monitor the motion that's happening. It's really helped us kind of feel more confident moving away from just thinking about TAM and really thinking about how do we get to that total relevant market. Another kind of bit that I wanted to share was on the pipeline velocity side. So I talked a little bit about this and just thinking about the coordinated go-to-market motions. When I was thinking about how I would potentially try and stack rank motions, I don't know that I could because of how some of them interact. And so for us, what we found is the more coordinated we are, that they're all kind of like working smartly in tandem, the more like the rising tide lifts all ships. And so we've just been really focused on how do we think about our inbound, our outbound, our partner led, our event led, and how do they all interact and work together in really smart ways. So there's just been a lot of work around, again, not planning together only for inbound or planning together only for outbound, but how are we truly planning and coordinating all of those motions together? So we're getting tighter. And I think one of the things that's come up is really thinking about stage-based campaign, a stage-based campaign model. It brings in some of those coordinated go-to-market motions in one stage-based campaign structure. So for us, that's meant really thinking smartly about account-based journeys and person-based journeys within one framework. So I'm happy. I would geek out on that if anyone wants to chat more, but I'm really excited about where that's going as we go into 2025. And then also wanted to hit on how we're thinking about revenue operations. I think one of the biggest things that our CRO says constantly is if it's not in Salesforce, it didn't happen. And some things do happen and aren't in Salesforce, but to him, it really doesn't matter because the point is you do need that single source of truth. You can't pull any data together if the data is non-existent. And so we've been really focused on just making sure that everything is in that system of record and that everything is connected there. And then there's been, there's a lot of focus on lead volume still. From a marketing side, we're really not looking. We model for lead volume to understand leading indicators of what we should be looking for, but we're really looking at then like how many meetings were set off of those people, how much pipe is driven by those, how much revenue is driven. So it's really like focusing on the revenue and what's going to drive your bottom line instead of getting really caught up in the leads that you're driving, which could never convert. And then kind of along those same lines, really thinking about there's a time and place for activity metrics with a team to make sure that the activity is happening. But you're kind of losing something if you don't go to the engagement metric after the activity. And so really thinking about how you're not just looking at activity, you're really more focused on, are people engaging with what you're sending out? Because it doesn't matter how many emails you send if no one does anything with them. And so really focusing on that messaging being received and engaged with versus just that like spray of what could be out in market. And then the final piece for me on the leadership and management side, I'm a firm believer in clarity. I think to row the boat in the same way, we all have to be working off of one plan. So we're working from one plan that drives our objectives, key results, and initiatives with a company. It helps us set the right meetings on the right topics with the right people in the room. We don't always get it right. Sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know, so-and-so should be here and they're not. And you can bring them into the conversation. But I think in general at Bazaar Voice, I love just the one team, one dream mindset. It really is like everyone wants to do what's best for the company, what's right for the company. And so just knowing that you're all starting from that place of really trying to grow the company it's a really great place to start from a culture perspective.
Right on, Kate. I think one of the things I took away right away from that one was this: if it's not in the CRM, it doesn't exist. And I think how do we address that when you're on podcast or when you are on all the other places that may not get integrated in it, or the LinkedIn, if that's your target audience, or forums or community. And that's really the challenge with a lot of times is like, well, what it may not be hooked up, maybe it doesn't need to be hooked up, but if they all agree that this is an important channel for us to focus on, which is what this strategy to execution process would then you should do, because otherwise you may actually not do some of the things that actually have much more impact in many ways. Like you coming and speaking and people checking out Bazaar Voice probably is a thing that may not be tracked in CRM, but it actually does create a brand value and impression. And so how do you do that? And if it's not important, how do you evaluate? So it's a very important question and thought to go through. So Kate, thanks for sharing yours. And then I'm going to have Karen share for Overhaul, because Overhaul, as you just talked about, Karen, it has scaled quite a bit and it has seen some of the great success in it. How are you planning through? Maybe you can highlight a couple of areas on this operating system of how do you connect strategy to execution for your 2025 planning?
Yeah, I think one of the things, I touched on maturity and scaling, and we grew quickly, as I mentioned before, which means that we're in multiple geos. There's a lot of team members supporting different aspects of our go-to-market. And so, where to start on this wheel, the leadership and management piece in terms of our vision and connecting that to outcomes has been a really big driver for our business over the last 4 to 5 years, especially. So really connecting our vision, specifically our mission around enabling supply chain organizations to have best-in-class, safe and secure supply chains. So really important that we kind of connect everything back to that, who we're serving. And then we bring it back to what we call our must-win battles. Like, what are the 4 to 5 battles that we're getting after for the year? And how do we support them across the organization? And so my belief is that everyone across the organization has a part to play in our go-to-market. So having those must-win battles, really kind of think about how you can waterfall those into actionable outcomes. That's a level of clarity that we've given the entire organization to begin their planning objectives in the beginning of the year, or in this case, now. A big learning for us, because the area that we serve in supply chain, it's extensive. There's large organizations, there's global third-party logistics companies, there's many different parts of the industries. They all have a supply chain, ultimately, manufacturers as well as 3PLs. So being able to be really disciplined around who our ICP is, where our product market fit is, and how we support specific use cases, and then step into the next case and the next use case and the next one in a disciplined format. Frameworks like this really help, because it really helps me think about, okay, what's next? And our product team is very aligned into that. Our CEO always talks about having kind of 2 ears, one mouth. We listen to our customers. We identify trends in what our customers are saying and what products or problems they're trying to solve. And then we look at kind of our product roadmap and how that can support that. And only then, with a lot of with research and validated use cases, do we start to kind of build out go-to-markets to support that as well. So a big thing, research is key for me. Being curious is a big one, both in the research in terms of market landscape, but also in terms of understanding full funnel metrics. So we have a unified way of looking at our funnel metrics today. We tie everything back to revenue. Bookings and other metrics are very important to get as leading indicators, but ultimately, order to cash revenue is king. So understanding how we can back out of that and think about the customer journey and align around that so that we can get to that kind of revenue piece quickly and then create stickiness with our customers. So when I think about the customer expansion piece, which is for me, Overhaul has a really strong customer success team. We are really dedicated to being a trusted partner for our customers. So having that mentality, I think, as you're kind of growing and looking for opportunities to scale within your customers is critical. You don't want to come through as a salesperson. You want to really become a trusted partner and think about how the relationship can grow from there. A big thing I spoke about in my intro around people, process, technology is to become a trusted partner and to know where the customer is at in that point of time means we need to internally streamline our own communications. There's a lot of really interesting AI tooling coming out that helps streamline and bring data to different parts of organizations. I could definitely talk offline about that in a big way, because I think there's a lot of excitement around that. But streamlining communications can help us respond to customer needs more quickly. It can help us understand the health of customers, and it can help us understand how the different departments across the organization can support customer needs. Many of you, probably like our company, really look at existing business and existing business growth as a key part of your go-to-market. Over 50% of our revenue comes from that area. And so understanding and looking at ways that we can support customers has been a big part. Solving problems creates stickiness. Last thing I'll just know, I know we're coming up on time, but really that I kind of tied into that. MK mentioned the implementation part, time to value. When we look at our product as well as how we deliver from a go-to-market team, we think about this as a frictionless experience, the need to deliver a frictionless experience. Now, logistics organizations are complex. They don't like interference in their operational processes. So thinking how we can implement our software and then create that experience for the customer so it really feels, and by the way, the customer's customer, because ultimately when you're receiving a package at your doorstep, a frictionless experience for you is important for our customers. So thinking about how that kind of evolves through to offer a better customer time to value, the frictionless piece, and then thinking about lastly around the similar theme, our customers are demanding insights and action, not just data. I know a lot of our software products offer data, insights and action. So we've definitely spent a lot of time focusing on that, in particular within the go-to-market team.
Love it, Karen. What I'm learning across the board is that each one of you almost took two different pillars. So everybody probably got a good view into the TRM market investment map. How do you prioritize different motions in pipeline, and how do you look at your analytics to customer time to value and expansion, which is why if you don't have it, companies won't move forward. And then how do you have what do you have a rhythm of leadership that allows you to make these decisions? So I think as we come to the end of this thing, I'm going to share this thing. This is what Jared think. This is nowhere to be found. It's not even on our website. So if people want to do, we help a lot of companies do advisory work and actually help them do this thing. But we also recorded all of it, and we're doing a monthly mastermind around helping companies. And we do that, you can see the cost and stuff. Just for RevCon, this is the thing that the special offer that we have came up with. And if you get it, good. And if you want to use it for yourself or your team or your company, go do it, because we have lots of great companies like IBMs and GoTos of the world who are doing this thing. What I want to bring each one of you back up as you're thinking through this all is, what is your one recommendation you want to give everybody? Karen, I'm going to start with you on what's your recommendation for everybody as they do, like 30 seconds, and then Kate, and then MK, you can just wrap us back in over here. What is the one recommendation you'll have for everybody as they think about go-to-market planning for 2025?
For me, it's kind of what I stated before, which is be curious, understand what the data is telling you, think about what that means in terms of building out your bottoms up and top down plan, and really kind of lean in there, because we have a lot of different predictive analytics and toolings that you can kind of pull into, but really taking the time to kind of be curious and think about what that means. And then we've said it a few times on the call, but get the team aligned around that. Get everyone curious around kind of what the data is telling us. Oftentimes in our industry, especially on the marketing side, having the ability to kind of back up kind of conversations with data, it's a really important part of the planning process to understand what's really working and what's really moving the needle.
Yeah, love that. Kate, what's yours?
I would say it's a journey. And so giving yourself kind of like the space and grace to have the conversations, to realize it's not about, again, it's not about certainty. It's not about getting it right. There isn't a right. It's really getting everyone aligned and on the same page and rowing in the same direction. But give yourself grace. We're all still learning and all still evolving what this looks like at our companies.
Well said. MK, bring us home.
So, I love the framework, and we walked through it at a very high level. What isn't shown on any of our slides is the actual metrics, which I know we all have, right? So when I think about even, how else can we serve our customers? And we bullet point something like, managed services. Okay, great. What does that look like? What's the cost? What do we think we can get from that? When you underpin all of this framework with the actual metrics, somebody asked a question on budget, that's how you get your budget. You have to actually have those metrics, and then you know exactly where to put your money.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, money, that drives the entire outcome around this thing. Right. So thank you so much for MK, Kate, Karen, for just sharing and opening up with everybody. It's not like 100% like this is how we do it, but enough for people to say, there is a framework. As Jared asked, like we just created that offer because there is everybody needs to do this. We can help that many companies at the same time. So that's why we created that recorded thing that people can get access to. Drop the link over there too. And I'm sure Jared and team will send it out later if needed.
Yep.
But it's such an amazing thing for you all to share that. And hopefully everybody got a lot because I made a lot of notes coming out of it. So thank you all so much.
Too.
Back to you.
Guys, what an amazing session. I also made notes, Sangram, so you aren't the only one. Thank you so much to our panel, Sangram, Kate, Karen, and MK. Just absolutely incredible. Lots of great information. But now, audience members and panelists, if you guys have time, we're going to head over to our last session at RevCon. Actually, it's something a little bit different. It's a special episode of our monthly GTM Hot Takes, which is run kind of like a game show, which is really interesting. Something we're new trying out. It's being hosted by our partner, Seamless AI. It's super fun and interactive. So we're going to head on over there. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks all. Take care. Bye-bye.